Today we're diving into the economy of Cuba. It's a story that's been shaped by revolution, by global superpowers, and believe it or not, by one very, very important number.
And that number is 90. Now, I know it might not seem like much, but 90 is pretty much the key to understanding Cuba's entire modern history.
Yep, 90 miles. That's how close Florida is to Cuba. And that little stretch of water, it has defined absolutely everything for this island nation. Its politics, its powerful neighbors, and ultimately, the unique economic path it's been on for decades.
So to really get a grip on the Cuba of today, we've got to go back to the beginning, a time when the island was caught right at a crossroads between empires.
And you know, right from the get-go, the United States was a huge player in Cuba's story. Back in 1898, the U.S. battleship Maine exploded in Havana Harbor, and that one event sparked a war with Spain. And the result? Well, Cuba got its independence, but now its powerful neighbor to the north was deeply, deeply involved in its business.
And this really complicated relationship with the U.S. basically set the stage for the single biggest moment in modern Cuban history, a revolution that was going to put it on a direct collision course with America.
In 1959, that collision happened. Fidel Castro led a revolution that didn't just swap out the government, it completely remade the nation's entire economic and political soul. Everything changed.
And wow, the economic shift was just stark. Before 1959, you had an economy that ran on sugar and tourism. But then, after declaring itself communist in 1961, the government just took over everything. All private industries were nationalized, creating a totally state-controlled command economy.
This move had immediate, and I mean massive, consequences. The U.S. hit back with a sweeping trade embargo, which completely cut Cuba off from its closest trading partner. But you know, as that door slammed shut, another one creaked open. The Soviet Union stepped right in and became Cuba's new lifeline, sending everything from oil and food to weapons.
You can just see the dominoes falling, one after the other. The revolution in '59 leads straight to becoming communists in '61, which then sets the stage for the absolute peak of Cold War terror just 1 year later.
I mean, this is the moment. This is when Cuba goes from just a regional island to the dead center of a global standoff. In 1962, the world discovers Soviet nuclear missiles on the island, and for 13 days, the two superpowers were closer to nuclear Armageddon than ever before or since.
So for decades, Cuba survived because of all that Soviet support. But what happens when your one and only lifeline just snaps? Let's take a look at the fallout.
Well, in 1991, the unthinkable happened, at least for Cuba's leaders. The Soviet Union just collapsed. And with it, gone. The billions in aid, the cheap oil, the guaranteed market for their sugar. The effect was immediate, and it was absolutely catastrophic. The Cuban economy went into a total freefall.
So facing complete ruin, the government had to do something. For the first time in decades, it very reluctantly allowed a little bit of private enterprise. It was pure necessity. Small private businesses, little family farms, they were now allowed to exist. A huge, even if very hesitant, shift.
So where does all this history leave Cuba today? Well, what we have now is a really complicated economic puzzle, and it's a direct result of everything we've just talked about. Because here's the thing. Even with those small reforms, the fundamental structure of the economy never really changed. It's still a command economy. The state controls almost all the major industries, and it's by far the biggest employer. And that creates a very, very specific set of economic realities. Okay, so think about this for a second. In 2015, all of Cuba's exports were worth about $4.4 billion. Just hold on to that number.
Because in that same year, while Cuba sold $4.4 billion worth of stuff to the world, it bought over $15 billion worth of goods from the world. That is a massive, massive trade deficit. It basically means the country is spending way more than it's earning on the global stage.
And, when you have that kind of imbalance year after year, it leads you to this final kind of staggering number. By 2014, Cuba's national debt was over $25 billion. That debt is pretty much the mathematical result of decades of economic struggle, and it just hangs over every single part of the island's future.
So, after going through this incredible history, revolution, Cold War drama, economic survival, what's the big takeaway from Cuba's story? What are we supposed to learn from all this?
When you boil it all down, Cuba's journey is just this incredibly powerful case study. It really shows the immense challenges a state-controlled command economy has when it comes to generating trade and creating real, sustainable growth over the long run.
And all of that leaves us with one last question. We've seen this timeline of dominoes that defined Cuba's past, right? Independence, revolution, a powerful new friend, and then a sudden collapse. So the question for today is, for a country still dealing with all that history, what's the next domino to fall?